Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon, and we're going to talk about the implosion of the AAA gaming scene. Yeah, the AAA industry is kind of burning right now, isn't it? Like, all these studios are shutting down, getting sold, massive layoffs. Gearbox, the studio that developed Borderlands, they got snapped up by Embracer Group, which bought like everybody. And then they turned around and they sold everybody off, or they shut them down. Well, they got sold for a fraction of what was paid for them. And I guess they're working on Borderlands 4. I don't know why they would after, I don't know how 3 did. But yeah, this is nuts. And like hours after they got sold to Take-Two, they laid a bunch of people off. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Nintendo confirming they're laying a bunch of people off. We're going to talk about Sega laying a bunch of people off. I mean, this is all within the last 2 days. It's insane. It's just like everything's imploding right now. Like, the only safe place, I think, for a game developer is probably with an indie studio, probably working on your own stuff. And you better make damn sure you stay on the right side of gamers' tastes. Let me just put it that way. Your actual customers, not GameStop, not Walmart, not Target, whatever. Your actual customers, if you're an independent game developer, okay, they're going to be the ones that determine whether or not your studio is successful. And you can actually be very successful with a very small team. And I think that's what we're going to see. The people who are actually talented at developing and making games will be fine. Everybody else, the bloat, you're gone, man. You're gone. And games that don't perform, they're gone. And AAA titles that cost $300, $400 million and are in development for 10 years, yeah, there's no room for that. There's no room for that going forward. I mean, where are the kids playing today? They're playing the same games they've been playing for like 5 or 10 years. You know, they're still playing Fortnite, still playing Among Us. They're playing Lethal Company. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not playing Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. They don't care. They certainly aren't playing Borderlands 3. Kids aren't playing Borderlands. And I don't think this movie is going to do them any favors. I mean, come on. Come on. I love Jamie Lee Curtis, but come on. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. For those of you who celebrate Easter, I hope you're having a good Easter. Maybe this isn't the most appropriate image to have up, but I hope you're having a good Easter weekend. This is coming from Push Square. Layoffs hit Gearbox staff hours after Embracer sale. They didn't waste any time. Less than a day after the news that Take-Two would acquire Borderlands developer Gearbox Entertainment from Embracer Group, layoffs have already begun. In the hours since former Gearbox employees were made redundant, they've taken to Twitter, and while the total number of staff impacted remains hard to determine, it sounds significant. Insider Gaming has reached out to Gearbox and new parent Take-Two Interactive for comment, but in the meantime, blindsided staff are telling the story for them. Former PR manager Jennifer Locke posted along with countless others, "I've been informed I've been laid off at Gearbox." Senior research investigator Jules Verne? Oh, see how it's spelled? It's spelled like Jules, like Jewel, like the singer, like the rock. Verne said, "I just lost my job." Chris Harada, director of online engagement, said on LinkedIn, "After 3 incredible years at Gearbox, my journey with the company has concluded." Why is everybody like so upbeat? I mean, I guess it's better than being like, "Yeah, I just got shit canned. And I'm going to go to GDC and scream." Embracer Group sold the Texas-based company for just $460 million, less than half of what paid for it in 2021, shelling out some $1.3 billion to acquire the studio in the first place. And then they just, like, where did this money come? Where did the money come from? Embracer Group, they had like an ungodly amount of money, and they just went on a spending spree. They bought Dark Horse Comics, and they bought Lord of the Rings. They bought up like 20 different game studios, and they shut them down or sold them off. Like, where did this cheat code come from that these guys had infinite money? You know, it's insane. That's an approximate loss of $840 million in 2 years, illustrating quite well the ridiculous state of the video game industry. And that's it. It is in a ridiculous state right now. And frankly, we're kind of at the place with video games, I feel, where we're at with other media, where there's just years and years and years worth of games. And nobody's played everything. So, you could theoretically never play a brand new game ever, and you'd be fine. Probably for the rest of your life. Have you beaten every JRPG ever made? No. I guarantee you haven't. I've beaten a lot in the 8 and 16-bit, 32-bit era. I've beaten many, but I don't have time to wait. I mean, how many 50, 60 to 100-hour games have you played? A lot of people, they have like one main game, especially if they're playing a live service game, they're playing an MMORPG. They've got like one main game that they're playing. And then they play some other stuff here and there. They follow one or two series. Nobody has played everything. So what I'm saying is there are decades of quality games out there. And if the video game industry stopped, tomorrow, that's okay. For gamers, lots of stuff to play. Lots of indie stuff. I mean, if the AAA gaming scene collapsed tomorrow, there's so much excitement going on in the indie space right now. You don't need AAA games. And pretty much every AAA franchise in the last couple of years has disappointed massively. So most of the excitement is in the indie space. And I seriously recommend checking out indie games. Even Nintendo is laying off. And they're laying off ahead of the Switch 2, which I think is really interesting. But, Nintendo, they're just releasing and re-releasing and re-releasing a lot of their older titles too. And Nintendo's like, yeah, we got GameCube games and N64 games, and we can just remake those forever. The old Pokemon games are way better than any of the new Pokemon games. We'll just release those. Nintendo confirms testing layoffs amid first-party lull and the reports of the Switch 2 delay. This comes from IGN. With few major games on the horizon and the Switch 2 seemingly delayed, Nintendo of America, their testing department is undergoing major changes, according to a new report from Kotaku, which itself is going to get sold or shut down pretty soon. I'm telling you. In the statement, Nintendo, again, this comes from Kotaku, which was blacklisted by Nintendo. Nintendo acknowledges it's restructuring its internal testing, which will involve some contractor assignments ending, as well as the creation of a significant number of new full-time positions. For all assignments that are ending, the contractors' agencies with Nintendo of America Support will offer severance packages and provide assistance during the transition. For those contractor associates who will be leaving us, we are tremendously grateful for the important contributions they made to our business, etc., etc., etc. Nintendo's restructuring comes off the heels of a slew of industry-wide layoffs. Sony and Microsoft laying people off. Activision Blizzard laying people off. And Bobby Kotick got a $15 million parachute. Sony laid off roughly 900 employees from Insomniac, Naughty Dog, and Guerrilla. Nintendo released Princess Peach Showtime, which got a 7 in our review. But they did release Mario Wonder last year, which was pretty freaking amazing. Best Mario game in a long time. Sega's laying people off. Sega sells Relic Entertainment and announces layoffs across multiple teams. God, this is just sad. This has come from Nintendo Life. As reported by IGN, the job losses will be split across Sega Europe, Creative Assembly, and Sega Hardlight. It's reported that the latter will be the least affected, with the majority of layoffs hitting Sega Europe and Creative Assembly. Sega barely puts games out anymore. And they're another one. They just keep going back to the same thing. Like, let's just release and re-release and re-release the same games. At least they're not doing as many shitty mobile apps as they were before. This news is the latest in a string of layoffs to hit the games industry, with Sega of America cutting 61 jobs back in March of this year. Sega of America, 61 March. Wow. Other companies reporting layoffs include Microsoft, Embracer, Telltale, and more. My God. So this was, January. Sega of America set to lay off 61 employees in March. God. it's not a good time to work in the AAA gaming space, the mainstream gaming industry. I almost got a job at Sega. Did I ever tell you guys that? I think I mentioned it. I did an interview with Doug TenNapel a couple of years ago, and he was actually working, I think, at Electronic Arts about the time I was trying to get a job at Sega, and I almost got an internship. I was a teenager. I was living in the Bay Area, and I was doing sprite design, doing sprite animation using Deluxe Paint Animation. I had to look that up. Deluxe Paint Animation. This is actually what they were using to make a lot of 16-bit titles. And it was from Electronic Arts. But yeah, I bought myself a copy of that. It was very expensive. And taught myself how to animate sprites. And I did some backgrounds and some tiles and stuff. And I could have had a job there. I could have had an internship there, but I would have had to move into San Francisco, and I couldn't afford to live there. And then life got in the way. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was I was there when they were working on Sonic 3, I think, is when I talked to them. They were working on Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. I think they were working on, I want to say they were working on 32X games, or just starting to work on 32X games. But I had to sign all kinds of paperwork that I wasn't going to talk. But they seemed incredibly stressed out. Let me just put it to you that way. Everybody there seemed incredibly stressed out. And this is kind of at the tail end of the life cycle of the Genesis. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I would not want to be in this industry. I'm just telling you. So good luck to those of you who are going to be looking for another job. For those of you who are just bloat to the industry, I'm sorry. I think the video game industry will go on without you. And I think that the good people will find a way to make independent titles, probably with a skeleton crew, and be able to have more control over the end product. And gamers will reward them for that, I think. You know, we're seeing more and more of that. I don't think AAA is necessary anymore. I really, truly don't. I think we're over it. I think the days of like the new console coming out with like the most ridiculous graphics you've ever seen, I think we've kind of peaked. And I think it's all about the games now. The game can have incredibly simple graphics. It can be a 16-bit game, you know, and it can be a hell of a lot of fun. And that's really where we're going back to. And I agree with the Nintendo philosophy on that. It's not really the hardware. It's not really the technology. It's the game itself. Is the game itself any good? And it can run on a potato, but is it fun? That's all that matters. And yeah, so we'll see where we're at in 2 years. I think we're gonna have a radically different video game industry. I'm gonna wrap this one up, guys. Again, have a happy Easter to those of you who celebrate Easter. We'll talk later.